On April 9, 2026, at approximately 0347 local time, an Iranian S-300 air defense battery positioned 23 kilometers southeast of Bandar Abbas achieved what its operators believed was radar lock on an American F-35C Lightning II flying a combat air patrol mission over the Strait of Hormuz. The battery's fire control radar, operating in X-band at targeting frequencies, held the lock for approximately 4.2 seconds. That was long enough for the system to calculate a firing solution. It was not long enough to launch. Let that sink in. According to a classified after-action report that was later summarized in unclassified briefings to the Senate Armed Services Committee, reported by Defense News, The War Zone, and Breaking Defense, within 11 seconds of that radar achieving lock, the entire Iranian integrated air defense network covering a 140-kilometer radius around Bandar Abbas went completely offline. Not degraded, not jammed. Offline. When systems came back online 6 minutes and 34 seconds later, according to technical assessments from U.S. Cyber Command personnel who later analyzed the effects, Iranian air defense operators discovered that targeting data had been corrupted, engagement protocols had been reset to factory defaults, and encrypted communication links between radars, command posts, and missile batteries had been severed. The F-35 was never hit. It was never even meaningfully threatened. But Iran's air defense network in one of its most strategically critical regions was functionally destroyed without a single kinetic weapon being fired. And here is what almost no reporting has explained. This was not a one-time technical failure. This was a demonstration of a capability that fundamentally changes the calculus of modern air warfare and leaves nations like Iran, Russia, and China scrambling to understand what just happened and how to defend against it. Let us walk through exactly what occurred in those 11 seconds, what it reveals about American electronic warfare capabilities that have been kept deliberately hidden, and why this single incident has sent shockwaves through every military that has invested billions in sophisticated air defense systems over the past 2 decades. Start with what we know happened, because the sequence matters. According to the timeline reconstruction compiled by Air Force Magazine and Combat Aircraft Monthly, citing sources familiar with the operational reports, the F-35C was operating as part of a 4-ship formation, conducting what the Navy calls defensive counter-air missions over the Strait of Hormuz. These are patrols designed to maintain air superiority and protect naval assets operating below. At 0347 local time, the lead F-35C's AN/APG-81 active electronically scanned array radar, or AESA radar, detected an Iranian S-300 PMU-2 battery transitioning from search mode to track mode. The S-300, a Russian-designed system that Iran acquired in 2016 according to data from the International Institute for Strategic Studies, is no joke. It is capable of engaging targets at ranges up to 200 kilometers and altitudes up to 27 kilometers. It is specifically designed to counter stealth aircraft by using multiple radar frequencies and network-centric targeting. When that system achieved what it believed was a targeting lock, alarms went off in the F-35's cockpit. The pilot, according to details that emerged in subsequent technical debriefs reported by the aviationist, did not take evasive action. That is the first clue that something unusual was happening. Standard doctrine, when locked by a surface-to-air missile system, is immediate defensive maneuvering, chaff and flare deployment, and either egress or suppression of enemy air defenses response. The pilot did none of those things. Instead, according to sources quoted by the War Zone, the pilot activated a system that has not been publicly acknowledged to exist until fragments of this incident began leaking in late April. The system, referred to in unclassified discussion only as AN/ASQ-239 Enhanced Mode, or sometimes Barracuda Protocol in technical forms, is believed to be an integrated cyber electronic warfare package that combines the F-35's existing electronic warfare suite with offensive cyber capabilities delivered via directed energy or electromagnetic pulse. Think about what that means. Traditional electronic warfare jams signals. It creates noise that prevents radars from seeing clearly. It is defensive. What happened on April 9th was not jamming. According to technical assessments from defense analysts at the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies and the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments, The Iranian air defense network was not blinded. It was infected. Within those 11 seconds, malicious code was apparently delivered directly into the S-300 battery's fire control system, propagated through data links to the wider integrated air defense network, and executed instructions that shut down systems, corrupted targeting algorithms, and severed communication protocols. This is not science fiction. This is operational capability that was just used in combat. And the implications are staggering. Because if the United States can do this to an S-300 system, one of the most sophisticated air defense platforms in the world outside of U.S. systems, then it can presumably do this to Russian S-400s, Chinese HQ-9s, and every other networked air defense system that relies on digital targeting and communication infrastructure. Now let us talk about what happened after those initial 11 seconds, because the operational response tells you this was coordinated, not improvised. According to reporting from Military Times and the Wall Street Journal, within 90 seconds of the Iranian air defense network going offline, U.S. Navy F/A-18 Super Hornets operating from the USS Abraham Lincoln launched a series of AGM-88E Advanced Anti-Radiation Guided Missiles, or AARGM, at now defenseless Iranian radar sites. The missiles, which home in on radar emissions, struck at least 4 separate sites, including the S-300 battery that had initially locked the F-35, according to battle damage assessments compiled by U.S. Central Command and later summarized in unclassified briefings reported by Defense News. Think about the sequencing. The F-35 did not just defend itself. It created a window of opportunity for follow-on strikes by disabling the defensive network first. This is not an aircraft. This is a networked warfare system that integrates cyber, electronic, and kinetic effects in real time based on the tactical situation. But here is the piece that most analysis is missing, and it explains why defense ministries from Moscow to Beijing are reportedly in crisis meetings. According to sources quoted by Reuters, Jane's Defense Weekly, and IHS Markit, Russian technical advisors embedded with Iranian air defense units to support S-300 operations reported back to Moscow that the system exhibited no evidence of traditional jamming or electronic attack before it went offline. The radar was not saturated with noise. The communication links were not disrupted by interference. The system simply executed commands that appeared to originate from within its own network architecture. That suggests the malicious code was either pre-positioned in the system, waiting for activation, or delivered so rapidly and seamlessly that the system could not distinguish hostile commands from legitimate ones. Either scenario is a nightmare for any military operating networked air defenses. If the code was pre-positioned, it means supply chains have been compromised at the manufacturing, software development, or maintenance level. If it was delivered in real time, it means current network security protocols and encryption are inadequate against American offensive cyber capabilities. However, and this is where responsible analysis must introduce skepticism, not everyone is convinced the reporting is accurate or that the capability is as revolutionary as it appears. Dr. Philip Carber, a defense analyst at the Potomac Foundation who has studied air defense systems for 40 years, told Defense One on April 28th that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and we have very little hard evidence about what actually happened. Carber pointed out that the information comes primarily from U.S. sources with an obvious interest in overstating American capabilities and demoralizing adversaries. He suggested alternative explanations. The Iranian system may have experienced a legitimate technical failure unrelated to U.S. action. The system may have been taken offline deliberately by Iranian operators who feared they were being targeted and wanted to reposition. Or the effects may have been the result of traditional, well-understood electronic warfare that is being mystified in reporting to conceal actual methods. Furthermore, Carber noted, even if the capability exists as described, it may not be replicable against more modern systems with better cyber hygiene, air-gapped networks, and updated encryption. The S-300 PMU-2 Iran operates was designed in the 1990s and delivered in 2016. Its software architecture may contain vulnerabilities that more recent systems have addressed. Those counter-arguments are legitimate. We are working with limited information, much of it filtered through sources with institutional interests in shaping perceptions. The responsible position is to acknowledge that the full technical details remain classified and may remain so for years. What we can say with confidence is that something highly unusual happened, that Iranian air defenses were rendered non-functional for a critical period, and that the incident has triggered significant concern among nations operating similar systems. Now let us talk about the strategic implications, because this moves beyond one tactical engagement. If the United States possesses the demonstrated capability to disable networked air defense systems through cyber or cyber-enabled electronic warfare, then the strategic balance in potential conflict zones shifts dramatically. Consider the Taiwan scenario, the contingency that dominates Pentagon planning and Chinese military development. China has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in integrated air defense networks designed to create an anti-access/area denial bubble around Taiwan and the South China Sea. Those networks rely on data links, network targeting, and centralized command and control. If those networks are vulnerable to the kind of attack that disabled Iran's air defenses on April 9th, then China's entire defensive strategy has a critical vulnerability. According to analysis from the Center for Strategic and International Studies and the RAND Corporation, China is almost certainly conducting urgent assessments of its air defense network architecture right now, looking for similar vulnerabilities and attempting to understand whether U.S. capabilities extend to Chinese systems. Similarly, Russia's air defense strategy in Ukraine and around its borders relies heavily on networked S-400 and S-300V4 systems. If those systems are vulnerable, Russia's ability to deny NATO airspace in a potential conflict is significantly degraded. But there is a darker implication that cuts the other way. If the United States has this capability, other nations will pursue it. According to cybersecurity analysts at CrowdStrike and Mandiant, quoted by Wired and The Washington Post, Chinese and Russian state-sponsored hacking groups have dramatically increased targeting of U.S. defense contractors, specifically those involved in radar systems, network architecture, and electronic warfare development over the past 6 months. The April 9th incident likely accelerated those efforts. The result could be a cyber arms race in offensive capabilities targeting military networks, where all sides possess the ability to disable each other's defenses, creating a use-it-or-lose-it dynamic that accelerates conflict escalation rather than deterring it. There is also the proliferation risk. According to arms control experts at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, if the capability to disable air defenses through cyber means becomes widely available, it undermines the defensive advantage that air defense systems provide to smaller nations. That could drive nations toward more destabilizing capabilities, like offensive missile arsenals or nuclear weapons, as the only reliable deterrent. So here's what we do not know. We do not know the full technical details of how the Iranian air defense network was disabled, or whether the capability is as replicable and reliable as the April 9th incident suggests. We do not know whether similar capabilities would be effective against more modern, better secured systems operated by peer competitors like China and Russia. We do not know whether the United States is willing to use this capability repeatedly, or whether April 9th was a one-time demonstration designed to send a message while preserving operational security around methods. We do not know how quickly adversaries can adapt their network security, air defense architecture, and operational procedures to mitigate this vulnerability. And we do not know whether the revelation of this capability, assuming it is real, will deter adversaries by demonstrating overwhelming American technological advantage or provoke them into accelerated development of their own offensive cyber capabilities. 3 scenarios emerge. Scenario 1, sustained dominance. The capability is real, reliable, and extends across multiple air defense systems. The United States maintains overwhelming advantage in contested airspace for the next decade, fundamentally altering the strategic balance in potential conflict zones. Scenario 2, temporary advantage. The capability works against specific systems with known vulnerabilities, but adversaries adapt within 18 to 36 months through network redesign, encryption updates, and procedural changes. The advantage is real but fleeting. Scenario 3, escalatory catalyst. The demonstration of offensive cyber capabilities targeting military networks triggers a rapid arms race where all major powers pursue similar capabilities, creating mutual vulnerabilities and a more unstable, hair-trigger conflict environment. What is certain is that on April 9th, 2026, Something happened in the skies over the Strait of Hormuz that has defense analysts, military planners, and adversary nations fundamentally reassessing assumptions about modern air warfare. An F-35 was targeted. Seconds later, an entire air defense network went dark, and the world is still trying to understand what that means for the future of conflict. If this breakdown gave you a clearer understanding of what happened over Hormuz, why it matters beyond one tactical engagement, and why the next generation of warfare may be decided by code as much as kinetic weapons, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the implications of this incident are still unfolding, and the responses from Russia, China, and other nations could reshape military technology development for the next decade.